Yes, yes. You see, that covers everything. I didn't go right to the solution of saying, hey, can you pick up my dry cleaners without going into details about it. And if I were to say that to him, or typically any type of solution type statement, it makes the person feel a little defensive. And your next question would say, okay, you might automatically want to know, why do I need you to do this? I mean, am I tied up with something, or that might be like a follow-up question. And the anxiety sort of, you cover that as your as my emotional point of view. And what the emotion does in that point, it connects with you, and he hears that and say, okay, he's feeling a little anxious, so I'm gonna work with him and try to get that this way he doesn't feel so anxious about that. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, let's see. Whoa, time just flew by. I think I covered 2 on the agenda. We are at about 4. Let's see, visual FPS. The testimony. If we can go to our workbook and look on page 34. And if we can go around the room. Try to pick out one or two of those. I'll read one or two of those testimonies. These are testimonies that I've gathered as sort of my, what do I call it? My support system, my evidence-based type thing. Of people, members in my online group, because I do anger management online, and these are testimonies that I put together for people that have benefited from this FPS structure. Because again, a lot of people, they just focus on the problem. And a lot of them, they work up a lot of anxiety around the problem. And again, they might know about the solution, but because they leave the feeling part out of it, it's where I find that for myself, I was in a lot of trouble. So what I do is I try to get the members in the group. Right now, I started that group off about 2-3 years ago. But it was nobody in the group at the time. But I think since Michael and I have been working, he's seen it grow from 500, 1,000, 1,500, so now we're up to about 2,000 members. And these are members that are often pretty active in the group. I interact with them. I get them, they come in the group, and they're very angry. And they need a place to vent. And so I provide that for them. And while they're venting, I also introduce them to FPS. And of course, no one is familiar with FPS outside of this group and the online group. And so over the years, what I've done is I've worked with the members in the group, and this now is something that I've worked diligently to try to bring it to the public, as Michael had said. So that's what has brought me here today, along with these testimonies that continue to inspire me. And if we can go around the room and probably read one of them. Anybody named Ashley wants to read Ashley next?
My name's not Ashley, but I'll read it. It says, hey, I want to get the most out of this group and life. Anger stands in the way of everything, but FPS helps put the craziness of anger into a nice, neat order, and it's useful that way. It's hard, but it's very helpful. Thank you for showing me the FPS way.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'll read another one. I've been controlling my anger pretty well lately because whenever I get angry, I use FPS silently, and usually I realize I'm mad at nothing, and if it is something, I can handle it in a much better way. A lot of my personal relationships are going much better. Thanks to this group, I'm still working on it, but definitely improving. Thank you.
says, I'm thankful for everyone in this wonderful group, and I want to let everyone know that FPS has saved my marriage. I studied and still study and use it daily in my journal. Without everyone sharing in our ups and downs, advice, and caring, I don't think my marriage or me would be where it's at. FPS is a wonderful coping mechanism, and a special shout out to V, Natural Beauty, and how do you say your name?
Igamine Joseph.
Igamine Joseph, because you're both amazing and honest. I love you both.
Wow, this is an eye-opener for me. It's making dealing with emotions much clearer and easier to understand. Thank you, Joseph Igamine.
I like this one the best. Since being part of this group, I've been a lot better with my anger. I'm doing a lot better with my anger. I even got a night out with my man. He's been there for a while and was hiding down in the man cave to avoid my outburst. I think that's great progress.
So to me, what I've noticed with a lot of those and what Iggy's told me is a few things. It allows people to get a practical use out of some, it's like a tool that they have now that they can access. And also it seems like it's been helping people with their relationships. So not just with them, but with the people that they are closest to.
I think it probably makes people pay attention to their anger more.
Yeah.
Anger, because these people have, anger has always been part of their lives, and now all of a sudden you've highlighted it for them. So that they shift their relationship with it, and so now they're looking at it differently. So if I speak this certain way, maybe I'll have less of that in my life.
And that's exactly what's been working, and that's exactly why they share the testimonies.
So I think it stops people. I'm angry, but it stops them to think about it. How do I feel? What's the problem? And how do I get to the solution?
Solution, yeah.
I also was noticing that there seems to be a lot of empathy in there and attentive listening.
Yes.
And I think a lot of time in society we don't listen. We always want to say things. So from what I'm understanding, it assists the person to be able to express, but the other part of that is that the other person is listening.
Yes. But not only the other person is listening, the person is also tuning in to the emotion that's being expressed. Because most of the time, I had asked the gentleman earlier, what happens when we go to the solution? The solution turns people off for some reason. I'm still trying to figure out why that happens, as well as the problem. But we get defensive. But when you start off with the emotion, it's like an attention grabber.
And there's a connection between the two.
There's a
people
connection, yes.
On a deeper level.
Yes. That often happens. And I think but you have to be brave enough to be able to own that. It takes some courage.
Speaking of brave, I was just thinking about it. To go back to your question about feelings, I believe that some people avoid feelings at the beginning, especially when you're concerning anger, is because they don't want to feel vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
Yeah. So they will avoid it and get straight to the problem, and through the anger, somehow come up with a solution at some point. But it's saturated on that problem, because if I tell you that I'm hurt, you may from experience they may feel okay, they're gonna feel like I'm vulnerable. So
that's a good point. That's a good point.
Also, another thing that I've noticed,
I want to come back to that I want to piggyback on that, but go ahead.
I was going to say with some of this too, especially when you're dealing with anger management or if it's an argument or something, so many times the problem or the solution lies with someone else. They're pointing towards someone else.
Oh, yes.
Feeling, they can't do anything but point to themselves when they talk
They
about
own
their
it,
own feelings.
yes.
So there's an ownership to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And I think that can help for people when they're managing anger or an argument or something like that, when they know each side is taking at least a little bit of ownership, even if it's just how they're feeling about it. So
That's a